What would you do if your best friend and your boyfriend betrayed you, together? Avery Morgan was shattered when she discovered the two people she trusted most had been hiding a cruel secret. But instead of falling apart, she rose, stronger, bolder, and more radiant than ever. Her journey from heartbreak in New York to healing in London will leave you breathless. And just when you think you've heard it all, she receives a wedding invitation that changes everything. Where are you watching from? Drop your city below, and don't forget to subscribe to hear more unforgettable stories like Avery's. I remember the exact moment my world cracked. It was a Thursday evening in early October, and the autumn rain was tapping lazily against the windows of my New York apartment. I had just poured myself a glass of red wine after a long day pitching campaigns and was curled up on my couch, scrolling through Instagram like it was my lifeline. And then it hit me. A photo. One I wasn't supposed to see, or maybe one I was always meant to. There, in warm golden hour lighting, stood Callie Rhodes, my best friend for over a decade, laughing with her head tilted back, her hand on the chest of the man standing beside her. Ryan Blake, my ex-boyfriend, my ex of 5 years. The caption under the image read, "Sometimes the best stories begin in the most unexpected chapters." I dropped my phone as if it had scorched me. My heart pounded so violently it felt like it might rupture. I stared at the screen again, praying my eyes had betrayed me. But the image was still there. Callie's fingers curled into the lapel of Ryan's leather jacket, his familiar smirk, the one that used to undo me, now aimed at her. 1,000 tiny pieces of me scattered across the floor in that moment. Ryan and I had broken up 7 months ago. He had told me he needed space, that he felt suffocated by how settled our lives had become. He looked down at his coffee as he said it. Unable to meet my eyes across the cafe table where we'd once spent lazy Sundays planning vacations we never took. I remember nodding, trying not to cry. I told myself it was maturity, letting someone go who wasn't sure. I had no idea he was walking straight into the arms of the person I trusted most in the world. Callie and I had met as undergrads at NYU. She was wild where I was cautious, impulsive where I was calculated, but we balanced each other. She was there the day I landed my first internship, screaming in the hallway loud enough to get us a noise complaint. She slept on the floor of my hospital room when I had appendicitis. She held me together when my dad died. She was more than a best friend. She was my anchor. And Ryan? Ryan had been my home. We met working late on a brand campaign at our old firm. He was clever, magnetic, and knew how to command a room with just his voice. It had taken time, but we had built something I believed in. A quiet, steady kind of love that I thought could survive anything. But apparently, not this. My hands were trembling as I called Callie. I didn't know what I was going to say. I just knew I needed to hear her voice, needed some explanation that might dull the razor edge of what I'd seen. She answered on the third ring, her voice chipper until she realized it was me. "Kenzie," she said cautiously. "What's going on? Were you ever going to tell me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. There was a pause long enough to make my stomach twist. "I was," she finally said. "I was going to call you this weekend. It just happened." "No," I said, my voice firmer now. "Things like that don't just happen, Callie." She didn't argue. Just silence again. And then, it's been a couple months. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. A couple of months. All those texts from her asking how I was doing, the memes she sent to cheer me up, the coffee dates she rescheduled, all of it, just a carefully crafted lie. "I never meant to hurt you," she said quietly. I closed my eyes. "But you did." And then, without another word, I hung up. The next morning, I woke up in a fog of disbelief. My head throbbed, though I hadn't finished the glass of wine I'd poured the night before. My phone lay face down on the floor, screen still cracked from where I'd dropped it. For a moment, I hoped it had all been a nightmare, just some twisted dream, but the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. The betrayal was real, and it was spreading through me like a slow poison. I didn't shower, didn't eat. I just sat on my couch in the same sweatshirt from yesterday, legs tucked beneath me, replaying every moment from the past year like a crime scene. Every look Ryan gave Callie at our group dinners, every work thing he bailed on me for, every time she asked about him with that casual tone that now felt like a mask. I had been walking through my life blind, while the two people I trusted most rewrote the story behind my back. By midday, the numbness gave way to rage. I called Ryan. I didn't plan what I was going to say. I just needed to hear it from him. He picked up sounding surprised, like I'd interrupted his brunch. "Kenzie," he said carefully, "I was going to reach out this week." I laughed bitterly. "Wow, did you two coordinate your damage control?" There was a pause. "It's not what you think," he said, and I almost dropped the phone again. "Really? Because I think it's you screwing my best friend." He let out a slow breath. "I didn't plan for this to happen. After you and I ended things, Callie reached out. Just as a friend. We started talking, hanging out. It felt easy, natural." "You don't think I deserve to know?" I asked, my voice breaking despite how hard I tried to hold it together. I wanted to, but he trailed off. "We weren't sure it would become anything. We didn't want to hurt you more than necessary." "You don't get to decide how much I hurt," I snapped. "You already made that choice when you climbed into bed with her." He was quiet for a long moment. "It didn't start like that. I swear, we never crossed that line until we knew we had feelings. I didn't cheat on you." I laughed again, this time hollow. "No, you just emotionally replaced me while I was still picking up the pieces." He said my name gently, like it still meant something to him, but it didn't anymore. I ended the call without saying goodbye. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I ignored texts, silenced my email, and shut out the world. I found myself scrolling through their old posts, things I hadn't noticed before. Little captions with double meanings. Photos with Callie cropped suspiciously close. Inside jokes I'd been excluded from. It was like my entire reality had been repackaged in some cruel alternate version of my own life. That night, I stood in front of my mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. My eyes were red, my skin dull. The pain had hollowed me out. A week later, my sister Jules let herself into my apartment with the spare key. She took one look at the dark circles under my eyes, the pile of takeout containers, and the dirty laundry scattered across the floor and declared, "This is over. You're coming with me." "Jules, I'm fine," I protested weakly. "You're not," she said, kneeling beside me. "You're unraveling, for people who don't even deserve your tears." Something about the way she said it cracked something inside me. I started sobbing. Ugly, heaving sobs that racked my whole body. She held me like I was a child again. That night, I slept at her place, in clean sheets, without checking my phone once. It was the first time I'd felt even remotely safe in weeks. And in the morning, when I woke up to sunlight streaming through her windows and the smell of coffee from the kitchen, a single stubborn thought broke through the ache in my chest. I can't let them ruin me forever. 3 weeks after that sleepless night on my sister's couch, I was sitting at JFK with a one-way ticket to London tucked inside my passport and a carry-on filled with nothing but essentials and one impulsively packed camera. I didn't have a plan beyond, "Get the hell out." I told my boss I needed a sabbatical, and she surprised me by saying, "Good, you've earned it. Go find your breath again." Maybe she could see what I hadn't, how I'd been slowly suffocating under the weight of other people's expectations, their betrayals, their decisions. I needed distance. From Ryan, from Callie, from New York, and every memory it held like a vice grip around my chest. London greeted me with gray skies and cool air, the kind that made you feel awake without needing coffee. I rented a tiny flat in Shoreditch with uneven floors and leaky windows, but I loved it instantly. It felt like starting over in a place that didn't expect anything from me. On my second day, I stumbled across a flyer taped to a lamppost. Urban Photography Workshop, 4 weeks, beginner's welcome. Maybe it was the fog in my brain or the strange sense of urgency in my chest, but I signed up right there on my phone. That workshop changed everything. We met 3 times a week, wandering alleyways and crowded markets, hunting light and emotion through our lenses. I hadn't picked up a camera in years, not seriously, but something about focusing on broken windows and rusted fire escapes made my own fractured pieces feel a little less sharp. The instructor was a tall, thoughtful man named Lucas Hart. He spoke softly but with conviction, and the way he framed his shots was like poetry in motion. He noticed me noticing the world again, I think. After class one evening, he invited me for tea, and it turned into dinner at a cozy place hidden behind a bookshop. We talked about photography and architecture, about how cities are like people, full of contradictions and scars. He didn't pry into my past, and I didn't offer it. That was what I needed most. A conversation without baggage. A man who didn't make me feel like I had to prove I was okay. Meanwhile, back in New York, the social media silence from Ryan and Callie was broken by awkward tagged photos and vague captions like "New beginnings are never easy." I didn't seek them out, but mutual friends posted enough that I didn't need to. I saw the cracks even from an ocean away. A comment here, a forced smile there. The version of their love story they had curated was starting to falter. And I was blooming in their absence. A month into London, I got an email from an agency contact. Someone I'd impressed years ago but hadn't stayed in touch with. "I hear you're in London. We've got a creative director opening for our EU markets, and you were the first name I thought of." I stared at the screen, stunned. It was the job I never thought I'd have the courage to want. I interviewed that same week, and by Friday the offer was in my inbox. It came with a corner office overlooking the Thames, and a team of creatives that felt like home from the start. That night, I called Jules from the little balcony of my flat and told her everything. "I think I'm staying," I said, wrapping a sweater around my shoulders as the city pulsed below me. "For how long?" she asked. I smiled, watching a red double-decker glide past. "I don't know. Maybe forever." And just like that, my life wasn't about the people who left anymore. It was about the version of me they never saw coming. The one who chose herself. Who crossed oceans and started again, not to escape the past, but to build something brighter in its wake. 6 months into my new life in London, a cream-colored envelope arrived in my mailbox, thick and expensive, like it was trying to impress me. My name was written in delicate cursive. Too familiar. I already knew who it was from before I even flipped it over. My hands didn't shake this time. That felt like progress. I opened it slowly, methodically, like defusing a bomb. Inside was a gold-embossed invitation. "Callie Rhodes and Ryan Blake request the honor of your presence at their wedding." I actually laughed. Not a bitter or sarcastic laugh, just stunned disbelief at their audacity. And then I noticed the smaller card tucked inside. A note in Callie's handwriting. "Avery, I know this is probably the last thing you expected or wanted. I debated sending it at all. But I couldn't get married without at least extending the invitation. You were a part of our lives, my life, for so long. I understand if you can't come, but if you could, it would mean something. Maybe everything. I miss you. Love always, Callie." I set the card down on the counter and stared at it like it might morph into something else. I hadn't heard from her in over a year, and this was how she chose to re-enter my life? A wedding invitation and a request for closure disguised as sentimentality? Still, the strangest part was that I didn't feel rage anymore. I didn't cry or scream. I just stood there, deeply calm. I called Olivia that night, the only friend from New York I'd stayed truly close to. "They invited you?" She gasped. "That's some Olympic-level delusion." I stirred my tea, staring out the window. Part of me thinks they want forgiveness, or a photo op, or to parade you around like it's all fine now. "The ex-girlfriend's blessing," Olivia added with a sneer. I didn't respond, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized I wanted to go. Not for them. For me. The moment I decided to attend the wedding, something clicked into place. I wasn't going for revenge. I wasn't going to make a scene or relive the pain. I was going to show them, and myself, just how far I had come. I started planning every detail, not out of vanity, but with purpose. The dress? A sleek navy number that fit me like it had been tailored by destiny. Understated, but powerful. My hair had grown longer, now styled in soft waves, and I booked an appointment with a celebrity stylist I'd helped launch a product for months ago. Favor for a favor. Lucas noticed the shift in me. One night, as we sat on the couch after dinner, he gently asked, "Do you want me to come with you?" I looked at him, this kind, steady man who had never once tried to fix me, just loved me where I was. "You'd really do that?" He nodded, squeezing my hand. "You shouldn't have to walk back into that alone." The idea of arriving with him felt like a punctuation mark at the end of a long, chaotic sentence. The contrast between him and Ryan was almost poetic. One had built his confidence on charm and attention, the other on depth and quiet certainty. In the weeks leading up to the trip, I checked in on Callie and Ryan through muted mutual connections. Not obsessively, just enough to confirm my intuition. They were posting less, smiling less. Their once curated digital fairy tale had faded into vague captions and forced photos. A mutual friend mentioned they'd been fighting about money. Ryan had missed out on a major exhibit opportunity. Callie's freelance work had dried up. I didn't take pleasure in it. Okay, maybe a flicker of schadenfreude, but mostly I felt detached. Their story no longer had power over me. I booked the flight to New York, first class. Not out of vanity, but because I deserved comfort. I told my team I'd be out for a week and left my phone on silent as I packed. In my suitcase, tucked neatly between my clothes, was a gift. A minimalist silver picture frame from Liberty, London. Inside it, a handwritten card that read, "Congratulations. May your new beginning be as honest as it is beautiful. Avery." They wouldn't know what hit them. The morning I landed in New York, the city felt smaller than I remembered. Maybe it was the way I had changed, or maybe it was because the ghosts didn't scare me anymore. Lucas and I checked into the Beekman downtown, an elegant balance of old-world charm and modern luxury. I wanted neutral territory, somewhere I hadn't cried over Ryan or shared late-night pizza with Callie. The lake suite overlooked the skyline I used to dream under, and now it just looked like a view. Beautiful, but distant. We had 2 days before the wedding. I skipped the pre-wedding festivities. No brunches, no spa days, no pretending. I needed boundaries, and I was finally strong enough to hold them. The night before the rehearsal dinner, my sister Jules came to meet us at the rooftop bar. "Well, damn," she said when she saw me. "You look expensive." Lucas chuckled beside me, sipping his old-fashioned. "She is." It felt good to laugh. It felt even better not to be carrying the weight of that laughter alone. That night, I got a text from Callie. "Hey, heard you're in town. Would love to grab a coffee." Just us? I stared at the message for a full minute. I wasn't sure if I wanted to open that door, but a part of me needed to. Not for her. For me. I typed back, "Lobby cafe at the Beekman. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Her response was immediate. "I'll be there." The next morning, I chose my outfit like armor. Crisp white trousers, a silk navy blouse, and the Cartier watch I'd gifted myself after closing the Kensington campaign. I arrived early, ordered a cappuccino, and waited. When Callie walked in, I barely recognized her. She was thinner, almost brittle, her usual effortless glow dimmed under the weight of something she wasn't saying. "Avery," she breathed, her voice catching. "You look incredible." "Thanks," I said, standing just enough to offer a polite hug. No warmth, no history, just manners. "Congratulations on tomorrow." She sat down, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I wasn't sure you'd actually come." "Neither was I admitted. We sat in silence for a beat too long, until she finally said, "London seems to suit you." I smiled, calm and steady. "It's been transformative." She looked down at her hands. "I think about what happened all the time, about how we hurt you. I know nothing I say will undo it, but I need you to know I carry that guilt." "I appreciate that," I said. "But I didn't come back for apologies. That chapter's closed for me." She looked stunned. Maybe she expected tears. Maybe she hoped for forgiveness wrapped in sentiment. What she got instead was closure. Not hers, mine. "So why did you come?" she asked. I stirred my coffee. "To prove something. That I could face this without fear. That it doesn't define me anymore." She nodded slowly. "Ryan doesn't know I'm meeting you. He's nervous about seeing you." I gave her a soft smile, cool and measured. "He doesn't need to be. I'm not here to haunt anyone. I'm here to witness." The rehearsal dinner that night was held at one of Ryan's favorite spots, Del Posto, where we once celebrated our 3rd anniversary. A cruel or clueless choice, I couldn't tell. We arrived fashionably late, heads turned, conversations paused. Lucas, impeccable in a tailored charcoal suit, kept his hand gently at the small of my back as we moved through the crowd. When Ryan saw me, he froze mid-sentence. His face paled, wine glass trembling slightly. I offered a polite nod, no more than I'd give a coworker I barely remembered. For the rest of the evening, I was grace incarnate, laughing with old colleagues, making effortless conversation, never once seeking Ryan or Callie out. But fate has a sense of humor. We crossed paths at the bar. "Avery," he said, voice tight. "You came." I did. I offered a small smile. "Congratulations, Ryan." His eyes flicked to Lucas across the room. "You look different." "Life does that when you live it fully." I paused. "I hope you're well." He didn't respond, just stared at me like I was the last page of a book he never got to finish. And in that moment I knew whatever power he once had over me was gone, completely, forever. Sometimes the deepest betrayals are the ones that open the door to our most powerful transformations. Avery's story is not just about heartbreak, it's about reclaiming your voice, rebuilding your self-worth, and realizing that closure doesn't come from apologies, but from rising above. She didn't get even, she got better. She chose healing over hate, growth over grief, and purpose over pity. That's the lesson. You are not defined by what breaks you, but by how you rise after. Pain has a way of blinding us, convincing us that we are small, unlovable, or not enough. But the truth? The version of you that survives the storm is stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable than ever. You don't need to burn bridges to move forward. You only need to walk across them and keep going. Avery didn't attend the wedding to cause a scene. She went to close the book with grace and dignity, and when she walked away, she carried nothing with her but peace. That's real power. So if you're hurting, let this story remind you, the life waiting on the other side of betrayal can be more beautiful than anything you left behind. Now I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe to stay with us for more powerful, true-to-the-heart stories. Your journey matters. And your comeback? It's already underway.